Hello everyone, it's been a while. Welcome back to Before the Basics? Back to Basics? I can't remember what I called it now. But yeah, whichever one computing. So yeah. Basically, I just wanted to give an update on the channel and what it's going to look like from now on. Cuz yeah, I wanted to change some things. So, let's go ahead and head over to here. Basically, we're going to change the challenges parameters a bit, or I should say I'm going to change them. So, I feel like at this point, I have shown, we got a program monitor up and running on our computer here. And the top-down camera is missing right now. I'm using it for my, oh, I shouldn't tap that, but I'm using it for my microphone instead. So it's yeah, that's where it's gone. I probably need to get another one of these booms before I start working with the computer too much. It's still set up over here. Still works, everything, but yeah. So we hand coded the monitor using switches, which I'd say is pretty impressive. And basically, when I started this challenge, so a little bit of background. When I started this challenge, I had a lot more time on my hands. And so I could spend time doing switches and everything. But I started work again, which basically all the time goes bye-bye at that point. So changing the parameters because of that. Let me go ahead and zoom this all the way in so we can make sure we see it. So, with that in mind, I'm gonna change just a couple things. Get this on the screen so you can see it. Basically, I think I've shown that I could hand assemble and hand code and just hand do everything. However, we'd be looking at probably a couple years worth of work, if not more, just to get to the point where we can have files and have a compiler of some sort. So it's not like it's hard stuff. It's just it's the way that I would have to input the code, it would be very hard. So, I've noticed I forgot to add something. So, with that being said, we're still going to keep, or I still want to keep a lot of the original goals of this challenge. But basically, the tooling must still be made from scratch. So every compiler, assembler, whatever. Not necessarily the programmer, though I will kind of have to make it from scratch, but just the basic stuff that actually makes the code for the machine. We're gonna allow ourselves, though, to write one tool using a compiler for our host computer, which is C, and I do have that. Can I get it on the screen? Let me see if I can get that on the screen for you. This was really just kind of an impromptu thing, so sorry if it's not all put together. That's not it. Here we go. So, I'll zoom in on this a bit so you can actually read the thing. Basically, what I have going on here is a Forth-like language, and so this is what I'm going to be developing. And I'll explain kind of how this works in a second, but yeah. And then I had to build a virtual CPU for it, for the reason that I will mention in a moment. So I'll go over this in a different video more in depth, but just know that it's here, and available to us. Oh, how did I... Okay, well. properties. Get me back to the notepad. Okay. Perfect. So, with that being said, that's what we're going to be making, and that's kind of what this step is right here. But so we will also be removing the rule that you must hand program and assemble everything. I definitely have appreciation for that now. For everyone who had to do that in the past to get us to where we are today, thank you. I wouldn't want to ever be in that position. If I was, I know how to do it, but yeah. And yeah, basically, because the original, very little progress will be made, because what we had to do was what I had to do was I wrote assembly, I then hand assembled, and then we could finally type into the computer. If something went wrong, you have to go back to step 1, which was here, and then I had to do this entirely, which, might I add, one small change here can change like 100 entries over here. So you have to change all of it, and then obviously you have to retype it all, and then if you're wrong, you gotta go back. So I just want a little better workflow. I don't think it's too much to ask, to not have to spend all our time hand assembling, which is where we'd spend most of the time, and typing it into the computer doesn't take too long, but still, rather not have to do it. So the new process I want is write assembly, bootload. Ta-da! Well, I guess have computer assemble it. So, yeah. So how we're going to get there, and how I think it's reasonable to get there, is first, the last program I'm going to hand assemble and write will be EEPROM bootloader, which I actually basically have written out here. I haven't loaded it yet, but basically all this does is it goes to a certain SPI device, which needs to be an SPI EEPROM. It will then go to the starting address and then load the program in. I'll explain more later, but yeah, it's really simple, really basic, and will also allow the entire thing to use all of 64K of RAM instead of having some of it ROM. So that'll be good. And then that's something different. Still this project, but something different. Not this video. Okay, so we have that, and we will have that. I then want a fourth like on a modern PC, which is the code I was writing, and I showed you kind of a sneak peek of that. It's not done yet, but still working on it. And that's also what this is for. Fourth words. And then, with the assembler, make an SD card bootloader so that I can boot from files from an SD card. That way, I don't even have the programming step. I can just transfer a file, which will make it faster. But we got to write that ourselves, so need an assembler first. And then we're going to write the fourth like, which is here. And these steps are interchangeable, so I don't know which I'm going to do first, but yeah, this fourth like that I'm writing on this PC, I'm going to port it over to the computer that I've built using either the assembler or just this fourth, because it was written. Basically, I want it to be self-hosting. So, however I build this, this needs to be able to build itself, basically. So this fourth like needs to be able to compile itself on the computer. So it needs to be able to compile itself here and here. And if we can get it to that, doing good. And then we'll move on with the rest of everything we were going to do, such as other compilers, operating systems, whatever. Because we'll have a higher level language like fourth, which is more like a fancy execution parser than a language. But you'll see as we get into fourth, kind of how that works. Feels like assembly, but acts like a parser because you can do so much more with it. Yeah, you'll see. But then we can make, operating systems, just whatever, because we'll have a high level language, we'll have an assembler, we'll be able to do whatever we want. So yeah, that's kind of where the entire project stands right now. So I hope you all will continue with me on this journey, and I hope it's not taking too much of a turn from what you thought it would be, but it was just going to be too much work. So it's not like it'll be too different, because just instead of basically the parts we're cutting out, because I'll still be writing hand assembly, possibly with some fourth now, once we get there. I'll still be writing assembly. I just won't hand assemble it, and I won't type it into the computer. So these steps are gone. We can still be wrong and go back to step one, but when the computer assembles it, oh, joyous day. 2 seconds, it's done. So, and then straight into a bootloader, we can do this. Or, what it might turn into is, it's still a bootloader, but the SD card. And it can just boot from a file. So, that will be fantastic if we can get it to do that. So basically, how that would work then is what happens is one of the SPI EEPROMs contains the SD card bootloader, and so the SPI EEPROM bootloader then loads the SD card bootloader from an SPI EEPROM, and then the SD card would then load a file and boot from that. So a little bit convoluted. Oh, and I would have to manually go into the SPI EEPROM bootloader from the monitor. So all the steps would kind of be the same. It'll probably get a little annoying, and I'll be like, oh, I wish I did about it. But you know what? It'll be better than hand assembly. So, and it's not that we can't eventually just make it go straight to bootloader, but I thought, having all the steps in there would be kind of cool to remind ourselves where we came from. So yeah, that's definitely, that's it. So questions, comments, concerns, put them down in the comments. And, until next time, I'll see you all later. See you.